All right, let's jump right in. Today we're looking at a wild story where the legacy of a famous artist collides with artificial intelligence. It's kicked off a huge debate about what hand-painted really means in 2024. So let's get into it.
And this really gets to the heart of the whole thing, doesn't it? Can something be inspired by AI and also be 100% hand-painted? That's the big disconnect, the central question that has art lovers and online communities completely buzzing. We're going to unpack that.
So, how did this all kick off? Well, you might be surprised. It wasn't a gallery owner or a big-name art critic who sounded the alarm. Nope, it all started with some really sharp-eyed people in online communities who just felt like something was off with the art being sold on the late Leonid Afremov's official website.
It really came down to the little things. People started sharing these promotional images from the store's social media, and they began pointing out these weird visual details that just didn't make sense. We're not talking about artistic choices. These were strange little artifacts that made people take a much closer look.
And they got super specific. For instance, there was one piece of a frog with butterfly wings, and people pointed out, hey, wait a minute, why are there no reflections of the wings in the water? In another example, a painting of a bear just looked weird. The way it was drawn felt less like a human interpretation and more like something an algorithm would spit out. These were the little sparks that lit a pretty big fire.
And this is where things get really confusing for customers. When you'd go to the product page, you'd see these two claims sitting right next to each other. On one hand, a promise that it's 100% hand-painted. On the other, it says it's inspired by an AI image. I mean, as a buyer, what are you supposed to make of that? Which one is it?
You know what else added fuel to the fire? The price. A lot of these pieces were selling for less than $100. Now, for something that's being marketed as a unique, signed, hand-painted original that comes with a certificate of authenticity, well, that low price tag raised a whole lot of red flags for people and made them even more skeptical.
Okay, so there's clearly a lot of heat around this, but to really understand what's going on, you have to look at it from both sides. You've got the critics who are worried about misleading customers, and then you have the artist's family who are defending their process as a way to continue his work.
So let's break it down. Critics are basically saying the art looks like it started its life as an AI image, which makes calling it hand-painted feel deceptive. They believe buyers are getting confused about what they're actually buying. But the family's position is totally different. They say they're only using AI as a jumping-off point for inspiration. From there, their studio artists take those ideas and paint real physical canvases. They see it as a perfectly legal and ethical way to keep Afremov's iconic style going.
So what does this all mean for the average person who just wants to buy some art for their living room? Well, it creates a really muddled, confusing marketplace. The result of all these mixed messages is an experience that's anything but clear.
And let's be super clear here. Using AI for ideas or selling prints isn't necessarily the problem. The real issue is the lack of clarity. When the marketing language doesn't quite line up with the creation process, it's impossible for a buyer to make an informed choice about the art's value or how it was made.
And to make things even trickier, the storefront uses lots of standard art terms. You'll see recreation, which is a copy, or giclée, which is just a fancy name for a high-quality print, and mixed media, which means it's made with a few different materials. All of these are totally legit terms, but when you mix them in with something vague like AI-inspired, it becomes really hard for a regular person to know what they're looking at.
I know, this all might sound a little intimidating if you're shopping for art online. But the good news is, you can absolutely protect yourself. So let's switch gears from the problem to the solution and walk through some practical things you can do.
And look, this advice goes way beyond just this one case. It's really about how to be a smart shopper in this new art market that's changing so fast. So if you're browsing online, here are 4 key steps to make sure you know exactly what you're getting.
Okay, first, read everything. Seriously, the fine print is your friend. Check the materials, see if it's a limited edition, and look for who is actually credited as the painter. Second, pay really close attention to those specific terms and know what they mean. Third, and this is a pro tip for buying anything online, save screenshots. The descriptions on a web page can change. And finally, number 4, check the seller's policies, especially for returns, and hunt down reviews on third-party sites, not just the ones they post themselves.
So what's the big takeaway here? This case is really just a snapshot of a much bigger conversation that's happening in the art world. It forces us all to ask some really important questions about what comes next.
When you boil it all down, it comes back to this one simple truth. As art evolves, the way we disclose how it's made has to evolve too. Technology has always changed art, from the invention of the camera to now AI. So as the methods change, the language we use to sell it has to keep up. Being transparent isn't just about ethics, it's about building trust with your customers.
And that leaves us with this final thought to chew on. In a world where an algorithm can spark an idea and a human hand brings it to life, what does the word original even mean anymore? What is authentic? There are no easy answers, but it's a question we're all going to be grappling with as this amazing new chapter in art keeps unfolding. Thanks for tuning in.